Amazing morning to you. Rise and shine. It's a little bit after the 8 o'clock hour. If you've been traveling this journey with us from 7 o'clock, thank you so much and continue to stay tuned in. If you are new, thank you so much. It is Coffee and Conversation with Collette, the Friday edition. It's a little bit after 8 o'clock, and we're talking about internalized racism. Whiteness is pervasive. Black folks are unconsciously rewarded for adopting white standards. And so I'm asking us today, are we critically looking at that? From every perspective of our lives, from every angle of our existence. And then we wonder why we haven't gotten any better. We wonder why society is what it is. We wonder why legislation is what it is. We wonder why crime in our communities is what it is. We're so quick to always point fingers at everybody else. But if you are acting the same way as the people that you say that are oppressing you to people that look like you, how do you expect it to be different? You all should understand that who I am and the conversations that we shape is never going to leave us with pointing fingers at everybody else. Because I'm very clear of understanding who America is, how she was founded, the ideas of democracy, who we're supposed to be, let me say that again, who we're supposed to be, how we were trained to be successful in this society. And if you go by that, what? Unconsciously, you'll be rewarded. But for those of us who don't go that way, what does that look like for us? All the lines are lit. I'm going to get to everyone. It is our 8 o'clock hour on our second Friday. I got Eddie on the line, Eddie Treadwell. You know, he is our prison reform activist. I've become to know him as a friend, and he's on the line because there's a perspective as well. Just because he is incarcerated does that mean, and I share with you and he has shared with you, that you don't experience the same things. We know that there is racism in law, in this American prison system, in how we look at justice. So he'll be able to articulate that as well. I just want to say good morning and bring him into the conversation. Great, amazing morning to you, Ed.
How you doing today, Ms. Collette?
I am amazing. How are you?
I'm doing great. Enthused about the conversation that you're having because I feel that it's very important for the people to have this particular conversation so we can start digging down deep into our psyche and understand why we feel in the way that we do towards each other and how we are so prone to accept any ideology and values that's coming from the other race instead of our own.
Yeah.
It's important, I think, to understand that we have to find some greatness within ourselves first. We have to recognize that we as a people come from a great stock of people, and once we have been stripped of that through slavery and through the systematic depression and the degradation of our people, that we come to be lost to that. We don't value our true nature, our history, our culture.
Sure.
So we accept all these other things to try to replace that, to try to find a sense of identity within ourselves, to help us strive and live within the existence in which we find ourselves, and, turning to the prison system is definitely racism. It's the disparities between sentences and even charging with crimes is painfully obvious and is well known and documented. This is not a secret. People know this, but people have the lack of ability to or desire to try to help change that which they know that's incorrect.
Sure.
We come to be more accepted to our conditions and endure the suffering or the injustices instead of trying to alleviate it, overcome it, transform it into that which is just, and conducive to our people and our race.
Sure, I totally agree. And the truth of the matter is, and I believe that we are harsher on each other. We are harsher to each other when we commit crimes. When things happen, it's no different than Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick and his mayoral existence here and what that looks like versus the current administration or the previous administrations. And for him to have gotten 28 years, I'm not justifying his behavior and what he did. Okay, so let's be very clear about that. But you had so many black folk, well, that's right, that's what he get. Now the other folks been raping and pillaging you all day. The same thing that's happening now in demolition. Now they're talking about they went through the $200 million for demolition. They don't have any more money. Now you want the taxpayers to pay for the blight. Are you serious right now? But you're not pushing back on that. Because there's a white man that's telling you that. You believe that he understands how to govern. This is what it looks like. All the lines are lit. I'm going to let King finish his thought. Ed's going to jump in. We got this time together. So that's what we're going to do. King, let's please finish your thought.
Yes. Good morning, Brother Ed. Queen, it's like Brother said about the psychic.
Mm-hmm.
See, we are actually operating through a white mind.
Yes.
And we have been programmed in such a way that when we look at each other, we don't realize what has been done to us, and so we look through the lenses of actually through white people.
Yes.
So when we look at our people, we look at them in a way a white person would look at our own people, and so we make decisions the way white people will make decisions about one another.
Yes.
It's almost like how we're shot down with our hands up, and they go to court, and the person is scot-free or whatever.
Yes.
All this that goes on, this goes back to us not really realizing what actually happened in the whole process of making us into them.
Yes. Yes.
And we don't realize how powerful the mind is.
Yes.
The mind is so powerful.
Yes.
And so when people tell you for hundreds and hundreds of years that you're nothing, you haven't done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
You were swinging in the trees
Mm-hmm.
with bones in your nose, and and you've been made to believe that.
Yes.
You actually understand, we actually begin to act like that.
Yeah.
And this is what has happened to us. So
Yes.
even the brothers that are incarcerated, before the true judge, they are all innocent.
Yeah.
And there's some accountability for the fact that they have been incarcerated,
Yes.
because it's really injustice.
Yes.
It's a grave injustice that has been done, because the very people that you have incarcerated like that, you have destroyed. You put them in that condition.
And stay there for a minute. And if we
Cause and
get, and King, stay there for a minute. And thank you so much. I'm going to get everybody else in. And I'm going to put it out there because I know a lot of you are saying right now, but Collette, if they did the crime, they need to be able to do the time. Again, I'm not here to judge anybody. That is not the position. I'm talking about who America is to people of color. We're so quick. I mean, just you look at all the embezzlement pieces. You look at the former attorney, the time that they get for the same crimes. You look at Bernie Madoff. What did Bernie Madoff say? Why are y'all mad at me? All I'm doing is showing who America is and doing what America has been doing to the citizens. It's no different than Martha Stewart doing jail time. You come out, people forgot to this day that she even did jail time. But you got a brother, Carmichael Stokey Kennedy, out of Baltimore, former drug dealer. Did you hear me? Did 12 years in the pen. He's done more with his after-school programs, community development programs, mentoring programs than I believe anybody in the stretch of administration in Baltimore. He's running for mayor, but the first thing they want to talk about him is, oh, well, you're a former drug dealer. Okay, what does that have to do? Okay, so he was a former drug dealer, and he went to jail and he did his time. And for the last 10 years, he's been making an impact in the same community in which he grew up in, and he has to atone and be accountable for those things. But I think we miss it. And King, thank you so much for the call. I'm going to get everybody, you too. And so, Ed, talk about that. I mean, what does that look like when you talk about redemption? You think, is that a space that you talk about where you are right now?
Excuse me?
Ed, do you talk about redemption? Do you talk about your colleagues and your in your community right now, what that looks like?
Yes, we talk about, trying to give back and understanding that we have, we have victimized others because most of us was actually victims ourselves through our communities. And so we end up in turn victimizing others. And now that we have been incarcerated and had time to reflect upon our past experiences and the influences that helped shape and mold us to be the individuals that we were before we came to prison, we start having a sense of sympathy and empathy towards the person whom we have victimized. And something of ourselves to try to help and assist and further the race instead of trying to destroy it, because we done did enough destroying. Now it's time to give back, to the community, to the world, because if we are in need, we are in need of people to try to bring about a change. We need a great change within our environment, and the only way the change is going to come is through us. We have to be the one. We have to be the change makers in our community. We can't look and depend and rely on somebody else to do that, in which we should do. The work is only going to get done by those who do it, and we need to participate in our growth and development as a race.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's go to the lines. All of them are lit. Thank you so much for your patience. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great, not only a great topic. Welcome to the young man that you're incarcerated. I take it.
He is. Yeah, Eddie, and we're going to get this together, Eddie, so Eddie can hear your conversations and comments as well. Yes, he is, Eddie Treadwell. He is currently incarcerated in Michigan's system right now. So, Eddie, the gentleman says good morning to you.
Okay. One thing, my days on this earth and understanding the place that we are in this country, America, and I'm trying to understand. So if I say understanding, that means I know it all. I don't know it all. But what I've observed so far, that there's, as far as white supremacy, we live in two different worlds.
Okay.
Two different cultures. How to identify what I've seen, okay? The young man that's in prison is just another form of slavery that was imposed upon
you have
that you identify. This is a tool that in this world that we live in, tool that they use. And what I've also observed, that the way that they can do this is because people buy into it.
Yes.
Okay. So, and I look at people, you got leaders, followers, and then there's the other people around there.
Yes.
Now, a good leader, whatever, and he can, you could be a leader in church, but you got to be able to lead. You got to have a knowledge of where you're going.
Yes.
When I say understanding, the wisdom, the knowledge.
Yes.
To lead.
Yes.
And it is. And are you leading for profit for yourself?
Yes.
Are you leading for to give back? When do you get that?
Yes. And stay there for a minute. And I really want us to think about on that point right there. When people are quote unquote leaders, who makes you a leader? I'd really like to know that. Because the majority of the people that I'm aware of who have the title of leader, that's self-ordained. It was self-created and determined. I believe that leadership comes from you doing the work, and the people then bring you up to that status. That's what I believe. But a lot of folks, it's like, to your point, I'm like, well, you became the leader based on what? So you became the head based on what? And we don't even question that. We just say, okay, well, now they the head of this. Says who? Based on what? I'm just trying to understand. You all know I'm multitasking. I'm getting Ed back on the phone. And I want us to finish the conversation. So hold on one second. I'm getting him back on. Hold on. Let's see. Hold on. Give me a minute.
Thank you for using GTL.
Ed, you there? Okay, gotcha. We got Ed back on. So I was finishing the point about leadership. Again, we don't even question that. We don't question how people become. Who's a leader? And why are you following them? But please continue.
Okay. And the thing hit my sympathy, not only sympathy, regret that his imprisonment. These are the tools that have been used. Not only today that have been used. It's a tool to suppress people.
Yes.
Because they are people that you cannot lead. They won't follow. So if you're going to be a leader, you have to have followers.
Yes.
Okay, and probably, I'm just analyzing, the gentleman, and I'm going to say gentleman because out of a matter of respect, it is respect for people. I want to do that in my life, respect people, regardless of what they've done or what not.
Yes.
I don't know what they've done. I can't decide. I don't judge.
Yes.
But in America, I got to get back to America because that's the only world or culture that I know about. There's two worlds, and we're adjusting. Most of us are adjusting but there is another world.
Okay.
And a good leader will lead us to the other world.
Yes.
Whether
I
it be
guess.
religion,
I mean,
will lead us to the other world.
Okay.
And not for his benefit or her benefit, but for the benefit of everyone.
Okay.
That's probably a utopian dream,
Yes.
but that's the one I want to live in.
Okay.
Carry on for the day.
All right. I mean, he makes a great point, but again, I just want us to know, A, do we know who's leading us? And again, what their motivation is. But we're being led based on what? What are we being led to? I mean, Eddie, you can talk about that. You said you grew up and call as I see you all, we're going to get to everyone. But if you're a product of your environment, you can't eat, you're hungry, you don't have adequate housing, what are you going to be led to do? Eddie, talk about that.
Well, for one, a person who are starving people cannot obtain a highest of spirituality, for one, right? Because you always got things that you need to do. You need to eat, you need to pay your rent, you need to get your gas. So it enables you to be the best that you can be, your best, calm, peaceful, spiritual, God-like, creative self, because you got too many other worries that's going on within your mind for you to be able to pursue things that could possibly prepare you for your future or whatever, So it's economic security is very important for the race. Education is very important for the race. Knowledge and ability to be independent is important for the race. We come to be too dependent on these various other different institutions who really don't have your best interest at heart. So when we rely on these other institutions, then it takes us away from our own natural ability from our ancestors to be independent, to be self-sufficient, to be self-reliant, and things of that nature, So this is what they call a systematic system that's designed to keep you, in a certain status, a certain state within the environment.
Absolutely. And stay there for a minute. The truth of the matter is, the majority of the people who are out doing things that could be, of course, against the law or I don't believe that the intention starts with trying to harm. Now, that is just me. I believe that the intention starts with the basic piece of, for whatever reason, and people will say, oh, well, all you have to do is just go to school. Well, guess what? If I don't have food in the house, if I have some issues, some folks, maybe I'm the only one that's active. I might not have parents in the household. I could be with my grandmother. I mean, there's so many other circumstances that people have to face before they even get out in this world, and that is by design. So you actually think that if you so think about it. You think about how Eddie is so articulate now. Yeah, he's had time to get to know him. He's had time to read and to think and to process. And so many other brothers and sisters are like that right now who are incarcerated because all the pressures of this society have been taken away. And callers, I see you. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to get you. Eddie, talk about that.
It's so real. This is not a myth. This is actual factual type of a scenario that, once you come to prison, you have time to reflect deep down into the core of your soul. They say those who gain the highest heights must reach the lowest depths. So we done reached the lowest depths by coming to be incarcerated. So now all we can go is up. You know what I'm saying? Those who have a desire to change, we have to have that desire to change within ourselves and extract ourselves from the other influences that goes on inside of prison that's counterproductive to our growth and development. Because in prison we got a thing going where it's that if we don't change and our change is recognized and seen and felt, through the institution and the public and society, then they gonna keep us pushed away on this island for the misfits, so to speak. People who they consider to be outcasts of society or antisocial and this, that, and other type of thing. So we have a strong desire and drive for change. It's like we breathe that in here. We teach each other how to be better individuals, better men, better brothers, better fathers, better friends, inside of prison. We're not 100% successful, but this is what we strive to do.
Stay there for a minute, Eddie, and I want you all to get that, because as conscious as Eddie is and the world that he is in, and everyone else who is consciously making that decision to work to create better space, that's the same thing we need to do in our world. Don't you all get that? That is no different. If you want a better outcome, you have to be conscious in how you are engaging each other. You have to be conscious about how you think about things. You have to be conscious about the impact and the decisions that you make. Absolutely. If you put pressures on yourself for external things, I tell you all the time, my sister, cousin, and I talk about this all the time. You don't have to have a $250,000 house. That might be what you choose. You don't have to have $200,000 cars. That might be what you choose, because then that puts other pressures on you. And then that has an impact in your household. There's nothing wrong with having a $50,000 house. There's nothing wrong with having a $20,000 car. We have to determine what is important to us, and then it takes our talent and time and focus away from trying to be the best that we can be. But if you are defined by this world, and you're defined by who he says you are and who you should be, and keeping up with the Joneses and all of that, then what does that look like for you? Because you'll never have the opportunity to determine and find out who your true self is. But folks who are free don't know their true selves. Eddie, you want to speak on that? Then I want to go to the calls.
Yes, it's important, like you said, people in society, I believe, have to start directing a lot of emphasis and attention towards the youth, because the children are the future. We have to teach them well and let them lead the way for the next generations to come. We have to break the chain somewhere, and the only way the chain can be broken is to be re-educated, re-motivated, and re-stimulated, to strive towards success instead of being the same typical, normal type of individual that you see presently running around in the neighborhoods and in the communities, selling drugs, robbing, killing, whatever reason that led them to that. These particular type of behaviors need to change, and the only way these particular type of behaviors will change is if the youth have a different view, a different image that they're looking at. That could be more lasting, more preserving for the race. Longevity, so to speak. You have to have activities that you engage in that you have more longevity, instead of putting yourself in harm's way to come to prison, to get killed, and various different things like that. So education and teaching the youngsters the importance of family, race, love, support, respect, and these various different things, then we will be able to raise ourselves up above our conditions where we find ourselves now. And it took generations for us to get in this condition, and it may take some generations for us to get out.
Absolutely.
The time is now to start.
Well, let me just say this. And the truth is, all that sounds great, and you're absolutely right, but there are adults who can't get it right. So I'm just going to say it. Stop it. The adults don't make the best decisions for themselves. So how you going to help a kid? Because, again, we're too busy trying to be defined by the world that they create. We're too busy trying to live for the weekend, get out there, don't put the time in trying to be the parent, don't sacrifice to do what's best for the children in the household. Heck, we don't take the time to develop ourselves as adults. So how are we going to, honestly, how are we going to sit up here and then try to say that the children have the opportunity when you don't know how to live your best life as an adult?
Exactly. So that's where the problem lies. Okay. So until the adults start being more responsible, and the only way you're going to be responsible if you start feeling and recognizing that you have a sense of value. Once you become to understand that you're valuable and you are important and your presence is relevant, then hopefully you start doing things that's necessary to connect yourself with your children, so your children or whoever that you may come in contact with can receive the best from you and not the worst. But again, intelligence rules the world, and ignorance bears burden.
Well, let me say this much. You can't figure out your best life if you're constantly waiting for somebody else to tell you who you should be. Let me go to the line. Thank you so much for your patience. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Can I hear you?
I would say this right off the bat.
Okay.
We are not experiencing white racism. We are experiencing in all major cities cooperation, racism carried out by black faces, specifically the Black City Council in Detroit and across this country. And they are paying up white racism so that we will fall behind the Democrats about the Central 5 Central in New York and a police shot somebody. But when I look and counted the major cities, I started in 1990. You had over 11 cities had over 55% black population, was overwhelmingly working people. Today, you only have a couple of cities that still got majority. In other words, we are experiencing ethnic cleansing, and then they bring in white people in the downtown, in Detroit, Washington, D.C., Philadelphia. They bring in them, and that's what is gentrification. You got two companions working at the same time.
Okay.
Of ethnic cleansing and gentrification.
Okay.
Now, to prove that those who says we are under white racism, then they are you're not in reality.
Well, stay here, brother. Stay here, brother.
Oh, let me finish. You cut me off each time.
Well, this is my show, so I can ask you to wait a minute if I have a question to your point.
Can I finish what I'm saying when you get through talking?
Okay, well, I'm going to put you on hold because we're not going to do that. So let me just tell anyone that calls in here, if you make a point and I interrupt you to ask you about your point, I can. If you have a problem with that, please don't call because that's not the conversation we have to have. I open this airway to have respectful dialogue to get to points. You're not going to be combative with me on my airway time. That's not how this works. Because I was going to ask you, if you wouldn't have been and presented the way that you presented it, please explain to me the difference between racism. You're trying to delineate white racism versus black corporate racism imposed by black folks. And so I was going to ask that if indeed racism is racism, what then becomes a solution as opposed to consistently trying to show whose racism is what? If we are being oppressed and opposed, then that is what it is. And so what do we do about it? We can sit and pontificate all day about what the... You call back, Eddie. We can sit and pontificate all day about how the racism got here, what it looks like. To these points right here, I'm talking about how black people impose on other blacks what racism looks like because we're all trained from this white ideology. So I was going to ask if you would have been more respectful to allow me to question you as to then, with all that being said, where do we go from here? Because that's what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to that if racism is racism, okay, I'm not trying to talk about white racism. We understand that. We know who America is. I'm not trying to talk about corporate racism because if white folks control America, then they control corporate. So it is the same as white racism, which everyone should understand that. And I'm asking us to have an internal discussion that says if indeed we only work to emulate what has been presented to us as the right way to maneuver in these Americas, then that is based on white ideology that we have been trained. And so at the end of the day, what difference does it make? Because what are we going to do? I don't care. We don't control downtown. Don't sit and talk to me about what they do in downtown unless you have a plan for... As opposed to constantly talking about all this stuff and all these statistics without a plan, what difference does it make? Absolutely. So if the black folks are down there doing the bidding of the white mayor, okay. If it's black on black racism, okay. If all the white corporations are getting the tax breaks and they're doing the development and they're getting all the blight monies and they're going to get more money off the backs of the taxpayers, we understand all of that. So then I'm asking, what do we do about it? That's what I want to talk about. So if you want to comment on that, you have an opinion on that, you can absolutely do that. But we're not going to be in a space where you're going to sit and try to tell me that I can't ask you a question. We're not going to do that. So that's just, I'm sorry. That's not just what's going to happen. Because I believe that I'm very forthright, if you will, and favorable about the direction that I try to present and the opportunities that I try to present to us. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I understand that we are all passionate about that. And as this wonderful station affords us all the opportunity, that if indeed you want to do something different, you come and get your own show. I have two. So you can come and you can get your own show and you can do it the way you want to do it. But on today, when it's too serious right now. It's too serious for us to delve in. We're talking to a brother who's been incarcerated over 20 years and is trying to work in that space to do something better, to make himself better, and then to have all the other brothers and sisters that they have contact with across this Michigan region to start to have a better means of communication and engagement to their family members on the outside so that it's an educational component so that their young people don't make the same mistakes. These are the type of conversations because I understand what everything else is. And so I chose to have him on the airways because I wanted to show us what the truth of the matter is. We're really not that different. Because if you want to sit and constantly talk about what they are and defining what they are and what they have and why they do things without saying who we are to what they have created us to be and how we do better, we're not talking about that. That's why it was important to have Eddie on because the way that this right here is no different than being behind those same walls that he's behind right now. Because you're constantly sitting here talking about what it looks like for folks and it's nothing else. I'm not going to spend all my time talking about what white folks are doing. I know what they do. You should know what they do. You're almost 80 years old. You should absolutely know what they do and what it looks like. And so then what do? We bring it to the attention. What do? Do we reach out to other folks and create programs? I created this program with Eddie so that he can share the conversation with you. Hold on, let me get him on the line. Eddie, you there? Okay, so Eddie, I'm gonna put you back on the line because I was distracted for a minute, and as I was saying that's our problem. We're ever constantly talking about where they are and what they do without saying what we're going to do to make it better for us. And I'm asking that if we look at each other the same way that they look at us, it will never be better. But maybe we didn't have a consciousness to understand that. And because I know that therefore, by the grace of God, go I and my family members, my loved ones could be in the same situation that you are in, as so many of us have loved ones who are in the same situation that you're in. And if we can't work to identify with that, what difference does it make? It doesn't make a difference. I got to be able to try to make it better for you because if it's better for you, you'll share that with those in your world. Then your world will then have an impact on their loved ones and family members and friends out in this world. So our problem is that the majority of us don't even talk to each other who are free, quote unquote. We don't deal with each other that are free. We can't sit. We're constantly wanting to sit here and talk about what everybody else is doing wrong in their organizations versus like Deputy Chief Amos. Y'all want to sit and talk about it because you don't like him or his personality or his this, that, and the other, and then you think your program and your approach is better. Do you know how many phone calls I got from people chastising me about having him on my show? This is called Coffee and Conversation with Collette. If I wanted Deputy Chief to be on my show to talk about his program, to be able to create an opportunity for those who are interested in doing something different, I can do that. If I choose to have Eddie on this show to talk about what it looks like from an incarcerated life perspective, and then how we can create something that's going to educate and enlighten and empower those who are physically incarcerated to have an influence on those, their family, and their circles of influence who are out in this world, I'm going to do that. That's what I'm going to do, Eddie.
Exactly. I mean, because you got a direction, you got a purpose, and you know what you want, and you know the direction in which you're going. See, can't nobody determine or understand the focus that you have because it's still in your mind. This is something that you create, and you're still like a work in progress. You're still moving and creating and forming and making things better that you feel is like a flower that's blossoming, that's blooming. So this is something that you done envisioned. What you want your show to be like. And people got to respect that if they want to be a part of it. Like you said, if you don't want to be a part of it, then don't call in. But if you do call in, then have something beneficial to say that we all can benefit from.
Absolutely.
Give us your best and be respectful and considerate to the station.
That's all I'm saying. And so because of that, because communication is so important, I'm working to create with Eddie, and we're coming up with a name for it, but it is it's kind of so it's a couple things. It will further the communication with in connecting the two worlds with inmates, their loved ones, their family through a writing initiative. It will promote literacy. It will promote education. And so we're putting together the components of it now. Eddie has already gotten some feedback, and he can share with that in his space about individuals being excited to do writing campaigns, letters to their loved ones, to engage. I mean, the truth of the matter is, if you look at the shows that especially young people like the Scared Straight programs, they're just looking for direction. They're just looking for connection. A lot of them, if their mothers and fathers are incarcerated, they don't get a chance to see them as much. They don't get a chance to hear from them and really communicate because it's the business of incarceration. And so in thinking about that, I said, well, why don't we do more to be able to write? And so it's easier to do a stamp. Eddie, talk about your thoughts about that campaign.
Yes, well, I've been communicating with every group, in this facility, and if you're not in a group, every individual, this is what I do. I'm an active communicator with the people on the compound, and I've been expressing to them the need to be able to give back to the community, their loved ones, their nieces, their nephews, and whoever they may have contact with, or reestablish contact with their relatives or people in the street who have an ear to hear, and try to express to them how you grow and was shaped and developed and influenced by society to be the person that you have become to be when you caught your case, when you came to prison. To that of now being in prison and have unfolded and have a new worldview of yourself and the world, and how that could benefit and contribute to the youngsters out there in society where they don't repeat the same pattern of behavior that you did and ultimately come to prison or get killed themselves.
Yeah.
So in retrospect, I can look back and say, well, it's therapeutic for me and to my people that I'm communicating with, because now I have a time to do some self-inventory. I can go inside myself and figure out where I went wrong and what obstacles that I didn't run able to overcome, and how I failed and where I succeeded at, and the things to look out for. So looking back now myself, I see the power and benefits of that.
Yeah.
Because this is what I had to go through myself and to get to the point where I'm at. And first you have to, and I think that, we have to let go a lot of hatred and pain that we have inside ourselves, because that eats you up from the inside, the bitterness. We have to clear our minds, of like you said, the stress and hustle and bustle of the day, and just sit back and understand that I have to find this peace within myself in order to survive within this space.
Yeah.
Once I find this peace, then this peace go radiate through me, through my actions. I'm gonna speak in peace, I'm gonna walk in peace, and I'm gonna exude that, so.
Yes.
Until, so the people is real receptive. I got everybody, they ready to participate, so I just need to get my format and everything together and start implementing it and bringing it to existence.
Good. And that's what's going to happen, because I think that, and let me just be very clear, it's no different than what we talk about. I'm going to go to the line after this. It's no different than what we talk about here. You got to go through some hurdles, though. There are going to be some hurts, because I know that some people are going to write some letters to their loved ones, and children are going to say that, you know what, I might be upset with you. I'm hurt that you're not here with me. Why did you leave me? Why did you choose to do what you did? I'm not getting the direction that I need. I believe that absolutely. It's going to be very therapeutic. It's going to allow the loved ones and the family members to really write out how they feel, and that's going to allow them to cleanse. And then it's going to allow individuals in your space to be able to really sit and reflect. Maybe go through the hurt, go through the anger, go through all the emotions when someone's really trying to hold them accountable for their actions. And then saying, you know what, you're right. I didn't, maybe at that time I wasn't conscious. Maybe at that time, whatever those answers are, but it'll allow you to get it out there so we can address it and start anew.
There you go.
Okay.
It's going to be a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be a beautiful thing. The people are enthused. I got the whole compound buzzing about it. Every day I go to the yard, people say, yeah, man, we're going to start the program. Yeah, that's good. I've been talking to my people. I say, because a lot of people do it now.
Yeah.
I always express that in my interaction with them. I'm not saying that you don't do it now, but I want to make it where we designate at least twice a month where you specifically focus on an individual. The child, don't talk about what my mama did last week. Did you send a secure pack, put some money on the phone and all that? We go to stay directed on the task of trying to educate and stimulate the minds of the youngsters and give them more direction where they can navigate their way through the complex mazes of life, which is so important for their success.
Absolutely.
Don't be a victim of circumstances or the environment.
Absolutely, Eddie. Let's go to the line. I got another call. Thanks for your patience. Good morning to you.
Is that me?
It is you. Thanks for your patience.
Good morning, young lady.
Good
I
morning.
love you.
Oh.
And to the brother incarcerated, I wish him peace and happiness.
Oh, thank you.
I want to say to you, you go, girl.
Ah, you go, girl.
And I enjoy your show, but what I want to know is, can I get 5 copies of yesterday's program and 5 copies of today's program?
Yes.
And I'll hang up and listen to your response because I can't hear too good on the phone.
Okay.
Thank you for taking my call, and you have an amazing day.
You have an amazing day as well. You absolutely can. She wants to know, can she get 5 copies of yesterday's program and 5 copies of today's program? And she said, greetings to you, Eddie. And I told her, you can absolutely, I will make sure that you can get all of that. And you can make sure you call me, 313-422-5751. Or you can text me, call me, 313-422-5751. And I will make sure that you get everything that you need from this station so we can continue. So she's going to share this information. See, that's what it's about. It's having real conversations. I mean, like, real conversations. Your time, I shared with everyone yesterday, Eddie, and you didn't get a chance to be a part of this. And thank you, everyone. I'm looking at our Facebook Live. Everybody's on. Thank you all so much. If I start mentioning everybody's names, oh, my goodness, thank you. I shared with you all yesterday. Your time is the most valuable resource you can give. I don't take that for granted. That's the most valuable resource we have. So when we have this time together, I'm going to address it. I'm going to present things. I take time. It's pride for me to prepare for our conversations. I don't want to just sit and talk to have lip service. I'm not going to sit and just talk to you about everything that everybody else is talking about. Because at the end of the day, where's that gotten us? Everybody's sitting talking about the same thing. You all know what all the same news cycles are about. I can sit and we could do that. I'm not going to do that. Because for me, this is serious. Your time is serious. Eddie's time is serious. Our time is serious. At the end of the day, this is all of us. Eddie, where do we go? Eddie, where do we go from here? What would you like to share with us with where you think we should go from here?
I think, it's important, like you were saying earlier, about the need to try to change our conditions, our minds, the way that we think, the way that we view the world, the way that we view each other, and quit holding on to these ideas and ideologies from the oppressor or from someone else who's not have your best interest at heart. Okay. We have to do that which is best for ourselves. We have to be more responsible.
Okay.
We have to be responsible for our actions. We have to be responsible for our inactions. We have to be, actively engaged in making changes for ourselves, for our people, for our children, for our future. Our destiny is determined not by fate, but by our actions. What we do. What we do now will help prepare us for the future.
Yeah.
So we have to do that which is necessary.
Yes.
And not just actively aimlessly wandering through life. We have to not merely exist, but be relevant, be important. Understand who you are. Because without you, there's no us. Together we stand, and divided we fall.
Yes.
So I like to see people come together more so and change. Themselves, create something. Like he created this show, this atmosphere, this line. You can create something too. Don't feel that you have the inability to do something great, that you need somebody else, like he said, follow them and following them and following this. Create something deep down within yourself and find the best within you. They say many treasures are hidden beneath the rocky soil. We just have to dig down deep inside yourself and bring it out.
And say therefore, Eddie, and I want you all to know, if you're not encouraged by anything, if you are hearing the voice of a man who is incarcerated, and for those of you who've been incarcerated, you know what that looks like. For those of you who have not, you only have what you see on TV and maybe what folks have told you, whatever the case may be. If he can work to have a mindset to create the best environment that he can in his condition, all I want to show you is that you can do the same thing. No matter what this day presented itself to you, you have a physical freedom that everyone is not afforded. And that in and of itself should be enough for you to say, you know what, I have to do it different. It has to be different for me today, no matter what it looks like. And the truth is, you have to move out of your own way.
You have
It's
1
fear.
minute remaining.
It's fear, Eddie. It's fear.
It's important. You have to move out your own way, because we hindering ourselves. It's sad, but it's a condition, though. This is a condition. We adapted and conformed to a particular condition of laziness, we don't have no confidence in ourselves, so we just accept whatever. We
Yes.
have to get up and get out and get some.
Right.
You have to do that which is necessary. Find that which is necessary to help you grow and develop and change your conditions, because you can if you apply yourself.
Yes.
But we don't want to apply ourselves.
Yes.
So it have to change. We have to be more motivated. We have to be inspired. We have to know that I can. I like the little train. I know I can. I know I can.
Yeah.
That's the thought and attitude that we got to have in whatever endeavor that we pursue.
Yes.
I know I can succeed.
Yes.
You got to see success. See imagery. Find people who succeeded.
Yes.
Thank you for using GTL.
Yes. And so I'm not sure if Eddie's going to call back because our time is almost up. If he does, I'll definitely give him the opportunity to say the last words. But everyone, that's the goal for today. The goal was to give us a space to have honest dialogue that really reflects back to us. That's really what it's about. And when they see us, when we see us, what does that look like for us? Everyone that you will encounter on today, what does that look like? You need to start questioning yourself in all aspects of your life. What is it that you do? How do you interact? And what has influenced that? I want to share, I'm going to go back to the black on black racism piece. I'm going to share a piece that he states in the article. And he said that his revelation that he was racist, as a black man said, quote, this dynamic is obviously the direct result of racism. Too often, racism is seen as a social phenomenon that happens to black people, but it happens through black people as well. That is, the negative associations thrust upon black people and black culture can color how we black people's view of each other. Blacks and whites receive the same narratives. Let me give that to you again. And Eddie's back on the line, so I'm going to get him. So y'all just hold on. I can multitask on this one. Blacks and whites receive the same narrative. Let me get, okay, hold on. I'm gonna get them back in. So hold on, everybody. Blacks and whites receive the same narratives and images that perpetuates stereotypes of black criminality and flippancy while synthesizing white culture with American values. Okay, I'm accepting the call. Okay, hold on. It's coming on, everybody. We're doing it all. Hold on. He's about to be on. I'm going to finish a thought. Thanks for your patience, everybody. We're working it out.
Thank you for using GTL.
Okay, Eddie?
Yes.
Okay, so I was just finishing a thought. I want you to be able to give your quotes, but I was finishing this paragraph, and he says, "It is to be expected that there will be an observable impact on black intragroup perceptions. The construct of
Right.
racism is efficiently designed to politically and socially subjugate a segment of the population. For the oppressed, a natural response is to advocate for conformity with the dominant culture as an appeal for equal treatment." That means we're constantly going to the white folks saying, please treat me fair, treat me fair, for those who are oppressed. And for black people, we're only more respectable. One line of argument runs, they would be less subject to the ills of racism. So again, we have to look at each other differently. Eddie, our time is almost up. I just wanted to give you a chance to give your final thoughts. You have a minute, if you don't mind, on today.
Okay. Well, my final thoughts will be: together we stand, and divided we fall. We have to come together as individuals, as groups, as organizations, as a race. To come together to try to do that which is necessary for the race. It's so important to look and view yourself and not always view yourself as something worthy of being viewed,
Okay.
and not as focusing on us as finding the fault within each other. We focus so much on fault and criticism, and like she said, we take on European philosophies and views towards one another so extensively that we don't even have our own thoughts.
Right.
Our thoughts of ourselves is that of what was placed in us or somebody else's perspective of who we are.
Yes.
So we have to, I think, just change the way that we think. If we change the way we think, then we can change the way we live. So I think that's the most so the point that I want to convey today is just change for the better, change who you are, change the way you think, change the way you view the world, change the way you view your children and your brothers and your sisters, and through the change, we will start moving more so towards success. With knowledge and information.
Yes.
So
Well,
I'll leave you with that thought.
Well, we appreciate it, Eddie. I wish peace for you on this day and productivity. Thank you for your time and sharing your perspective. Thank you for your willingness to effectuate a positive change where you are that began with you. And I know that our conversation matters. I know it does. So all of you who are listening, that I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. That is just what I want you to take away on today. I want you to know that it is more than what it looks like. I want you to start critically assessing what is going on. Start assessing why you believe what you believe. Start assessing why you see people the way that you see people. And then the action that you take on top of it. Because it's all based on something. And if you're not aware and familiar with where it's coming from, it can be detrimental, literally and figuratively, to you. I want to leave us with this quote on today from Beyonce. It says, "You have the power to change perception, to inspire and empower, and to show people how to embrace their complications and see the flaws and the true beauty and strength that's inside all of us." I'm going to read that one more time again. That's so prevalent. That's the takeaway. That you have the power to change the perception, to inspire and empower, and to show people how to embrace their complications and see the flaws and the true beauty and strength that's inside of all of us. That is my prayer for us. I thank you for your 2 hours on this Friday. I pray that you were educated, enlightened, and empowered. I pray that you will look at yourself differently as you look at others differently. I pray that you will realize that the true charge is to represent each other, that we have to be better together, that we're only better together, and then we can be better in this collective world of ours. We have to make the most of what we've been given, and that's through us communicating with each other. Make today amazing. Make your moments matter. Have a phenomenal weekend. For those of you who are coming out on tomorrow, we will be here for the Wakana. Cannabis is inviting you for the Wakana meet and greet at 12 noon at this station, 160 Victor Street. If you have more questions, you can give me a call, 313-422-5751. And so I'll see you tomorrow for those who will be here. If not, I will see you next Wednesday, bright and early at 7 a.m. for Cannabis, discussing the business of cannabis. Until then, see you later.